Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me for the 2025 NMFE webinar. I really, really appreciate you guys being here and all of your effort that you guys put towards implementing and offering NMFE classes out across the state. We're going to walk through really what is the grant, the difference between Tier 1 and Tier 2, talk a lot about the forms and where to submit them. Please use the chat if you have questions, or feel free to unmute yourself and ask them along the way. I think it'll probably make more sense to answer questions throughout the meeting versus waiting until the very end. I have some updates and stuff to share with you and a bunch of information, so let's kick it off. All right, so first and foremost, I always like to start off with a brief overview of the difference between Tier 1 and Tier 2, mostly because we have some new awardees with us, which is so exciting. So Tier 1 grants, our Tier 1 grants are the grants that we use for getting nutrient management plans written by farmers. This is the larger grant. It is limited to $25,000 per application. I should also add in the caveat, unless you are an entity of groups that are applying together, when you add on an additional partner, you're eligible for an additional $10,000 per entity. So for example, if let's say a county land conservation department was partnering with an RC&D, the county could apply for that $25,000 by themselves. But once they added in that partnership, they are then eligible for an additional $10,000 for bringing in that partner, allowing them to apply up to $35,000. Requirements in the Tier 1 grant are that our farmer participants are going to be required to have a nutrient management plan completed to be able to receive their reimbursements. The one other fun little piece about Tier 1 is that county LCDs are able to request an additional $2,000 in funding to be able to get laptops to keep at their office for farmers to be able to come in and work on their nutrient management plans. Our Tier 2 grant is the smaller grant. This is the grant where it's really education based. It's there to help finance field day education opportunities, and really just more outreach regarding nutrient management. There is no requirement that a farmer participant produce or turn in a nutrient management plan. You can also use this to purchase equipment or tools. I've seen people help these farmers out with different requirements in nutrient management planning. This grant is limited to $3,000 per application. And then in the past, I believe it's 2 grant cycles now already, we have added in the opportunity to host implementation reviews within the Tier 2 level of this grant. And you might say, Andrea, well, what is an implementation review? Great question. They're still fairly new. These are reviews that the County Land Conservation Department staff are able to host, where we're bringing together our nutrient management plan writer, if that isn't the farmer, as well as the farmer. And so let me just restart. You could potentially have the farmer, who is the plan writer, sit down with you at the Land Conservation Office and review the plan. You could also have a farmer and the plan writer and the LCD staff all sitting down to review the plan as well. My hope is that these implementation reviews are not a way to enforce any action upon the farmers based on finding any compliance issues. It's truly an opportunity to sit down and discuss the nutrient management plan, make sure that the farmer knows and understands what is in that plan and that they're actually able to implement it. Obviously, if you end up finding something that could be a compliance related issue, let's work on solving that issue and seeing what we can do to fix that problem. Um, the biggest thing is that these are meant to be an educational opportunity and also an opportunity for land conservation staff and agronomists and farmers to build relationships together and to have a better opportunity for LCD staff to be able to share new updates as well related to cost sharing or other program offerings that they might have. The farmer and the planner are both eligible for up to a $150 stipend for coming in and sitting down and completing an implementation review. And then the planner is also eligible for a nutrient management CEU credit, and that's specific to their certified crop advisor license that they hold. And so I will provide more details on how to request a nutrient management CEU for those planners later on in the presentation. The application period for our 2026 funding is going to be January 31st through April 15th of the 2025 year. So the fun part of NMFE is we are always applying for funding 1 year in advance. So we will open up the 2026 funding application January 31st of this upcoming spring. I am going to move on to documents and forms. So a lot of times we get questions about what kind of documentation do I need to keep track of? When are things due? Where can I find your templates? And let's just kind of walk through and answer those questions form by form. So first and foremost is our reimbursement form. This can be found on our DATCP NMFE webpage. It's there. I checked this morning to make sure that it was still there. But you can go onto the NMFE webpage. You can open up that document, that template. You're allowed to submit up to 2 reimbursements per grant period. The final grant reimbursement submission is due February 15th of the year following the grant period. So let's use right now as an example. People are currently working on their 2024 awards and spending those down. The 2024 grant cycle will wrap up on December 31st of 2024. You will then have until February 15th of 2025 to submit a reimbursement request for your 2024 funding. Even though we're currently talking about our 2025 awards and working on planning for our 2025 season, there's always these fun moving pieces of we're still working in the past, planning for the future, and then planning even further into the future when we're applying for our funds. So lots of dates to keep track of that way. But questions regarding what do I need to provide for documentation when submitting a reimbursement form? We need to make sure that we are receiving a 590 checklist from the nutrient management plan, proving that that plan has been written and completed. If we are going to be reimbursing for soil sampling costs, manure analysis costs, or providing a participation stipend. So that is the one thing that we ask for when you submit your reimbursement form. I do not necessarily need all of your other receipts. Those are receipts and documentation that you need to keep on your own end, but are not things that need to be turned in to us at DATCP. The one thing I need to mention is that hopefully on or around October 19th, I will be having a baby and I will be out on maternity leave through the first of the year. So thankfully, Shauna Minnick will be filling in for me. Well, not really filling in. She's been helping me out a tremendous amount with reimbursements in the financial side of the NMFE program. But she will be our point of contact for any questions that you guys might have related to finance, reimbursement questions. Where are you sitting at with your total amount of funding remaining? She will be the go-to person. And so I have provided her email here on this slide, but additionally, please do submit reimbursement forms this year to that DATCP soil watershed at wisconsin.gov email, just because there's multiple people who are able to monitor that email. And that when I do come back, I'm still able to access that email and see all of the correspondence in which you guys might have had with Shauna. If you have, direct questions related to how much funding do I have, or, specific questions, please do not hesitate to use Shauna's email, and you can reach out to her with those questions. The one fun thing that we get asked every single year is the way that our current reimbursement form is set up is that when you are filling it out, every one of those little gray boxes within the table itself needs to have a 0 in it if you are not, requesting funds within that category. The way the form is set up with the calculations in it, we need to make sure that there's something in each cell. And so if you're not requesting funding, just make sure you're putting a 0 in there. And then the calculations will work, I promise. It's really funky, and I have no explanation as to why it does not work if there are not zeros, but I promise you the solution is to put the zeros in where those gray cells are. To follow up with some other frequently asked questions related to the reimbursement form, can farmer participants receive a participation stipend if they come back through a refresher course every year? Yes. DATCP's opinion, yes, we definitely can. But we do know and understand that all of our awardees manage their grants just a little bit differently. So if that is something that you guys wanted to decide against, I understand, but do know that the funding is available and that farmer participants are able to come back through your class every single year and receive a participation stipend. Can I request administrative payments if farmer participants are paying tuition to attend our NMFE course? No. It is the intent that those tuition payments will be covering any sort of administrative costs that you might have. Can counties receive administrative payments for staff time? No. Sadly, this funding does come from our Soil and Water Resource Management funding pool, and there already is allocated funding through that pool of money for staff time for counties. And so we can't necessarily double dip by using NMFE funds to cover county staff time. Subcontracting out administrative tasks is allowed. And so if you do have a situation where a county might be partnering with an RC&D or a technical college, that technical college can be subcontracted out to do some of that administrative work. And then therefore you could potentially be requesting administrative funding reimbursements. Another question that we see a lot is, am I able to move funds from one category to the next if I over or underspent in one category? Yes, most definitely. We want to make sure that you're able to spend down your money and utilize it to the best of your abilities. And so with that, we do have the flexibility of being able to move funds from one category to the next. So again, in my absence, please email Shauna before submitting a reimbursement form so that we can document where and how much money you're going to be moving from one category to the next. We just need to keep a paper trail on our end so that we can verify things when you guys are submitting your reimbursement requests so that everything lines up. But again, just make sure that before you do move money in a category, you're reaching out to Shauna and notifying her of that. All right. The next document I want to talk about is the final report template. This can also be found on the DATCP NMFE webpage. It is again due the February 15th following the grant period. I plan to be back a little after January 1st. And so with that, I have my email on here as a place that you can submit the final report template if you're submitting it after I get back. Otherwise, again, feel free to use that DATCP Soil Watershed email address. There will be people monitoring that closely. It's very important that we're listing all of our farmer participant names and acres for tracking purposes. We'll get into this here in the next couple slides, but on the back end of things, Shauna has been helping me keep a participant list and tracking their years in which they attended NMFE so that we can better help remind you guys of when someone might need to come back through your course to continue their certification. And then, as always, any comments, suggestions on how we can make the program better are truly, truly appreciated in our final report. Extension requests. So this year, Shauna will be emailing out around the 1st of December the extension request form. She will also be sending an email. Well, in that same email, she will include the amount of your remaining balance of your award, just so that everybody kind of knows exactly where they're sitting at right now for how much funding they have available to extend into the future. Um, do take note that you can only extend funds 1 year. So Shauna will be sending out this extension request form for extending out your current 2024 funds if you have 24 funds. If you do not have 24 funds and have only been awarded 2025 funds, you will not be seeing this email from Shauna. Okay, so this email will only be going out to our people who have 2024 funding and who have a remaining balance, who have then that opportunity to extend it out 1 year. And again, it looks very similar to our original application budget table. It's just showing how much in each category you're wanting to extend into the future. Okay, so earlier we talked a little bit about what an implementation review was. I wanted to point out that we do have a nutrient management implementation review guide that is posted on the NMFE webpage. It walks you through, what really is an implementation review, where can you start if you're trying to identify a target audience to reach out to host implementation reviews, points to discuss with the farmer, things to discuss with the planner, and then also just some frequently asked questions. I will say that I haven't had a chance to update this document yet with feedback from the implementation reviews that are currently ongoing. My hope is that I will be able to send out a separate final report template for people who are hosting implementation reviews. I would love to ask some additional questions and get feedback on how those reviews are going. How can we make it better? What are some other things we might want to focus on? All of those things. And my hope is that I'll be able to write a short write-up about what we're finding in implementation reviews and how they've been going and be able to provide that out with everybody. I would probably say probably after NMFE training season next year. So summer of next year is my hope to get that out. So that's a resource that's available. The other thing that I want to mention is that there is that CEU component. If you are meeting with plan writers, they're eligible to get a CEU, or for however long you meet with them. For example, if you meet with them for an hour, it's one CEU. If you meet with them for an hour and a half, it's 1.5. You meet with them for 2 hours, it's 2 CEUs. So anyways, in my absence, Wrangler will be helping out with requesting CEUs for implementation reviews. So when you send an email to Wrangler, we need to make sure that we're including that CCA's name, their CCA number, and then the amount of time spent in the implementation review. Wrangler will then work in the background to file a CEU request for that planner, and then we'll notify the planner and the requester of when that has been fully submitted. Okay, this is some new content here. I wanted to kind of walk through some specific course curriculum requirements with you all, specifically because I have seen a variety of different ways to host NMFE classes across the state. And I think that variety and that flexibility is awesome. But what I'm also tending to see is that every year there's a little bit more of a reduction in the amount of time spent on curriculum. And I just want to make sure that we are taking the time to teach the curriculum and making sure that we are, giving these farmers all of the information that we can to set them up for success. So the way that ATCP 50 is written for our rules pertaining to landowners being eligible to write their own nutrient management plan. There is the requirement that a landowner go through a DATCP approved course once every 4 years. So once every 4 years, they need to come back through the full course and receive that content again to be able to maintain their certification. Okay. So what do I consider the full course? The full course is generally, not always, but generally a 3-day event in which that first day is going to be the pretty much straight curriculum, walking through all of those different pieces. I have a slide here next showing you what those pieces are, but then the second and third day would be working on your SNAP Plus nutrient management plan. So receiving the curriculum day 1, day 2 and 3, working on updating or writing your nutrient management plan. In situations, though, where we have participants who come back through the class, every year, for example, that's totally fine. When they come back, though, every single year, they do not necessarily have to come back and attend day 1 with all of the curriculum. They can come in then and just work on days 2 and 3 on updating their nutrient management plan. So again, there are people who might need to attend the full course, and there's some people that might just need to attend the refresher course. So it's important to kind of keep track of who is needing recertification and who isn't. And that's where Sean and I are really hoping to be able to help out a little bit more when you guys are reporting back your participation numbers in the final report, so that we can help keep track of some of this for you. So what are some of the required topics for the full course? I have them really kind of bulleted out and pulled out. A lot of these end up getting merged together into one bigger presentation, but I did want to be able to show what are all the topics that we need to make sure that we're covering in our full course. There's different ways in which you can do this, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit, but you can have staff from the nutrient and pest management team and DATCP help present on all of these topics in person. You can utilize the online NMFE training platform where farmers can go in and watch and walk through all of this curriculum on their own ahead of your guys' training. You could pull in different videos and topics from that online platform and include them in your in-person trainings. So there's a lot of flexibility, but I did just want to make sure that we're spending some time talking about what is the difference between that full course and what is the difference with a refresher course. One other thing I wanted to just include was an example of what a full course agenda might look like. Again, it does not have to be this exact thing. This is just Andrea hearing some people say, well, I would like to see an example of what that looks like. So this is a general idea of how some of the timing of some of these presentations might fall. So again, I'll be sure to share my slides here at the end so that you guys have access to all of this stuff, but just wanted to really kind of flush out the details between full course and refresher course. And maybe before I move on, are there any specific questions that have come through the chat? Oh, there's a red dot. I'm sorry, guys. Oh, Bobby has a great question. What is the benefit for certified crop advisors to receive CEUs? So certified crop advisors are required on a 2-year basis to achieve, I believe, at least 40 CEUs to be able to maintain their certification. So it's kind of a little bit of an incentive that, yeah, I'm coming in and I'm getting paid, but on top of that, I'm able to get some CEUs that I need to maintain my certification. Great, great question. Oh, Wrangler already answered it for me. You rock, Wrangler. Thanks, dude. Rick, how many hours do we consider for a full day of curriculum? So that's a really great question, and I don't want to put an exact hour amount on it, Rick, but more or less really focusing on making sure that we're covering the topics that need to be covered. And so if it takes 8 hours to cover that curriculum, it takes you 8 hours. If you're able to suss it down to 6 hours, that I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure that we're covering these topics. If a farmer does the NMFE training online, is there a way for us to confirm that they completed the training? Wonderful, wonderful question, Jacob. Yes, there is. When you go on to that online NMFE webpage, and maybe while I'm talking, Wrangler or Shauna could go on there for me and pull out the checklist that I'm going to refer to. But when you go on to that NMFE training webpage, I believe it's in the upper right corner. There's going to be a button that says keep track of your progress. It's going to be a checklist PDF. It is truly using the honor system. Okay. So what I would tell them is that there's a checklist on there. I need you to initial every line stating that you watched each video. You will sign that checklist, and then they can turn that into you as documentation or proof that they went through and watched all of the video modules. We're currently working on building uh, a Canvas course that basically takes that online NMFE curriculum and builds it into a Canvas course where we're able to better track completion of stuff. So that will be coming in the future. But for right now, I do accept, and the only way for us to track is by using that checklist that can be found on the NMFE webpage. And Shauna's a rock star. She just linked that PDF of that checklist in the chat. Thank you. Okay, so great question, Morgan. How do we report farmer participants that might have completed the NMFE training online when requesting reimbursement? Are they lumped in with the in-person attendees? Yes, they can be. So as long as you have that checklist of proof that they have completed that course, and then maybe they just came in to meet with you to go over the SNAP Plus portion of the class, they can turn in that checklist to you that they completed the online portion of the curriculum, and then you can treat them as just a normal in-class participant that way. And they can all be treated the same, all lumped together, as long as you have the documentation that you need on your end. Okay. Thank you for the questions. I now have the chat visible instead of all of my words being dictated on the screen, so I'll keep better track, I promise. Okay, this is another new request. Generally, I get emails from all of you wonderful people directly to my email saying, hey, Andrea, my training is on December 12th, 13th, and 14th. Can you come and assist? Obviously, I will be out through January 1st, but Wrangler will be here. And so the best way for us to just kind of keep track of all of these upcoming trainings is going to be having you guys submit your training times and dates to this email, datcapsoilwatershed@wisconsin.gov. Again, Shauna and Wrangler are both going to have access to this email in my absence. And so what they're going to do is receive those requests. They will get them on everybody's calendar at DATCP. If it's before January 1st, you're probably going to see Wrangler. If it's after January 1st, Wrangler and I will work it out on who's going to be going where and helping out with what session. But basically, I wanted to just have a way that when I come back from leave, I have all of your guys' trainings already in my calendar, so that I can kind of just jump back into things and help you guys out where you need it. So that DATCP Soil Watershed email is going to be the go-to for a lot of different submissions related to NMFE. Okay. As I briefly mentioned earlier, participant tracking. This is the first year that we are able to share out with you guys information on participants that might need to come back through the refresher course. So before I started in this role, there was really no tracking on DATCP side of things for participants that came through the NMFE program. It was all done at that local level, at the awardee level. So for example, I know Clark County has their own little card system where it dates the date that you come through the class, and it tells you the date that your certification expires. And I even think there's like a little number on there. And I've seen a couple other people use other systems, which is great. But I did want to provide a way in which DATCP can assist you guys in keeping track of these participants. And so the way that we do that is in the final report template. You guys are reporting in there that farmer's name, was this a new plan or an update plan, and then amount of acres, et cetera, et cetera. And so Shauna has taken all of those final reports here for the last 3 years and has been tracking and keeping track of those farmer participants. So very, very exciting. Shauna is hoping to be able to send out the emails to you guys here next week, notifying you of any participants that you might have that are going to be due for recertification, so that full course to come back through. Again, this is our first time being able to do this. So if the way in which we're sharing out this information is not helpful to you, please let us know. Or if there's a way that we can make it more useful to you, again, please do let us know. But these emails will be coming from Shauna. Again, everyone here might not necessarily be receiving one of these emails from Shauna. If you do not have participants that we've been able to track for the last 3 years, obviously that's information that we just don't have that we can follow up with you on. So more to come, hopefully this next week with emails from Shauna about participant tracking. Another new effort that we are working on is building this NMFE resource hub. This resource hub is intended to be just that, an opportunity for newer awardees to be able to see example NMFE agendas or flyers, letters that are used to communicate with farmer participants, and really just be a place where you could potentially borrow and utilize some other people's resources. We have a good stash so far of resources that have been shared with us, but I'm really hoping that we can get a couple more flyers and a couple more resources to be able to share out. With that being said, this is something that I'm going to have people send to Wrangler in my absence. Wrangler is going to work on getting these resources posted in a link on our NMFE webpage, and that this will be live ahead of our 2026 application period. So please do, as soon as you guys get any agendas or flyers and stuff put together, please feel free to just send them to Wrangler, and we will work on building that hub for you guys and getting it posted. And there will be an email announcement going out notifying you guys of when that will be live. Okay, I've spewed a lot of information here. I want to just take a quick second if we have any questions before I dive into what resources might be available. And if I don't see any, I'll just keep plugging along. Feel free to continue using the chat, guys. Okay, so let's briefly touch on some of the resources that are available to you all. So we have the NMFE curriculum, we have training laptops, we have a train the trainer opportunity, we have the NPM, Nutrient and Pest Management team, and then the team here at DATCP. So let's talk a little bit more about the NMFE curriculum. So again, this is this online platform. Oh, look it. I can point out that checklist. So here in the middle of the screen, it says, want to keep track of your progress? Download the checklist. So if you click on that button, you're going to produce that PDF checklist that Shauna put in the chat. And that's that checklist that can be submitted into you guys for proof of completion of the online course. It's free. It's available 24/7. They're able to click in and watch the modules as they go. And it's also a neat opportunity to pull in and include some of the video content in the classroom with you. If there's a video that you like or just want to add in, or you want to give yourself a break from presenting, totally okay to do that. Next is our training laptops. Super excited to say that hopefully by training season, we will have 10 new laptops purchased, um, meaning that we'll able to get rid of some of our dinosaur laptops that we've been lugging around here for the last 10 years. So very excited for that. If you are looking to have a class and you need to make sure that you have laptops available, please reach out to Wrangler to make sure that we have your training date on our calendar, so that we can either be there and bring the laptops or get the laptops to you ahead of the training date. Also, if there isn't good Wi-Fi connection, Wrangler does have a MiFi device, a wireless like internet hotspot, that he can bring with him and connect the laptops to, so that people are able to have service to do the Snap Maps portion of their plan. So again, reach out to Wrangler if you guys need laptops at all. Train the Trainer is available upon request. And so in that instance, if you are a new awardee and you just would like to meet with Shauna, Wrangler, or I, we can definitely set that up and discuss, further requirements within the grant, or giving you access to some of our PowerPoints and presentations to kind of help set you up for presenting on some of the topics if that's something that you're interested in doing as well. A huge resource to us across the state is our nutrient and pest management team. They are regional specialists, and they are incredible in helping us with our nutrient management farmer education program. A lot of times what I see is that the NPM team is presenting most of the content. We rely on our local people to present on different programmatic offerings and opportunities that they have at their local level. But if local land conservation staff um, have an interest in presenting content, please do. More power to you. I definitely think it's better to break up the content and have multiple people presenting instead of having to listen to Andrea here now for 40 plus minutes. But when you're out and about, if there is a topic of content that interests you and you want to present on it, either reach out to myself or Wrangler and we can help share some slides, or we can help get you in contact with your nutrient and pest management team member if you aren't already. And we can also get slides to be able to share with you in hopes of helping you prepare for a presentation. Last but not least, I wanted to just provide our direct contact information for you guys. Again, my plan is to be out mid-October here through the 1st of January. So until then, I will be answering all emails and questions that you guys might send my way. But if you have questions or help needs for training, or general SNAP Plus questions or agronomic questions, Wrangler is the go-to for those. And then for all finance and reimbursement related questions, Shauna will be the go-to for those as well. So I will leave it there. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to give us a little bit of time here to answer any questions that might be lingering still. If we don't have any questions, I can let you guys go early, but I'll just. Ooh, that's a great question, Morgan. If producers are only doing cash cropping and they don't have any animals or manure in their plan, are they required to watch the online modules that pertain to that? No. And so what I could do, I will write a note for myself, Morgan, to provide additional guidance on if a farmer is cash grain only, no manure being spread on any of their land, what modules do they need to absolutely watch versus the ones that they can skip over. I'm planning to send out a follow-up email, and I will include that in that email. Great question. I can understand why you've gotten pushback on that. If they don't have manure, I get that. For cash green. Oh, Rick, great question. So I mentioned funding availability for laptops. Is it possible to apply for funds to purchase a MiFi device? Um, I would say initially yes, but the one thing that I don't know if we would be able to pay for is that continued subscription. And so, at least how my MiFi device works, it works very similar to like a cell phone data plan, where I have to pay per gigabyte of use, or maybe I have an unlimited plan. But regardless, there is a monthly charge for using that MiFi device. I don't necessarily know if I would be able to reimburse you for that monthly charge. Um, but I do think we could provide funding to purchase the initial device. Okay. Anything else? All right. Well, I'm going to probably stop the recording just so we don't have a bunch of silence here at the end. Um, I will mention again,